I am so sorry for being late. I was using my sundial to keep track of the time, and it got cloudy. Nice to see that you're all here today. Now, before we start today's lesson, could we go astray for a moment? There is something very important and very timely that I want to talk to you about. Electors. Does anyone know what electors do? Anytime there's a U.S. presidential election, they are in the news. So, does anybody know what an elector is? No, it's not going to be on our next test. Don't worry. Anybody? Don't you guys watch the news? All right. Electors are the people in our system of government here in the United States who cast votes for president every 4 years at election time. Now, I know, there's a lot of negativity out there during election season about the electoral system and just about everything else, but I want to try to calm your nerves. Okay? Let's hit the lights. First, let's go over the basics. The use of electors was part of a compromise way back when the Constitution of the United States was written. Some delegates at the Constitutional Convention wanted direct elections by the people. Every person's vote would be equal. Other delegates wanted the president to be selected by a vote in Congress. The people wouldn't vote at all, but their elected representatives would vote for them. In the end, they compromised with the idea of electors. This is what the Constitution says. Each state shall appoint, in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct, a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative, or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote. So how does this whole system work? Let's take, for an example, the great state of New Mexico. Today, New Mexico has, based on its population, 3 representatives in the House of Representatives and, like all states, 2 senators in the Senate, for a grand total of 5 electoral votes. States with larger populations, like California, have more electoral votes because they have more representatives based on their larger population. A couple states with very small populations have only 3 electors, based on 1 representative and 2 senators. If any candidate doesn't receive a simple majority of electoral votes, today that means 270 plus 1 vote, then the election will be decided by the House of Representatives, who will vote for the president. So basically, it's that simple. The electors should vote based on the popular vote count in their respective states. Instead of getting a specific number of votes from, say, New Mexico, the candidate that wins the most votes in the state gets New Mexico's 5 electoral votes. I know what you might be thinking. What if the electors don't like who the people in the state voted for? Well, that is a good question, and it almost never happens. Except, I guess, when it does. Or when it could. Well, anyway, there are no national rules that say that electors have to vote for the candidates that won their state, although some states have rules for their own electors. It's a good question, actually. Oh, okay. Well, another common question is this. If the system is winner take all, that means the winner of the vote gets all the electors, isn't it kind of unfair for a state, say New Mexico, to give all of its votes to one candidate if, let's say, that candidate won the popular vote of the state by just 1 vote? Now, that is true, but elections are never actually that close. Really. Plus, it isn't always winner take all because some states, Nebraska and Maine, do not use winner take all at all. So their states frequently split electoral votes. Does that make it any less confusing? Well, What we can say for certain is this: despite all the problems, the use of electors actually works. It nearly works all the time, except for those times when it didn't work. Let's look at those. 1824. There were four candidates running for president, and none of them, even though they were all from the same party, by the way, none of them received a majority of the electoral vote. Andrew Jackson received the most electoral votes and the most popular votes. However, since no candidate received the majority of the electoral vote, the decision was passed to the House of Representatives, who chose John Quincy Adams. See, the system worked as it was designed. It just wasn't democratic, that's all. 1876, when Samuel Tilden appeared to have easily defeated Rutherford B. Hayes. However, there were 20 electoral votes that were held up due to accusations of corruption and widespread voter intimidation in some southern states. An electoral commission of 15 men was the solution. After they were appointed, and after careful and no doubt corruption-free work, they awarded all 20 votes to Hayes, giving him an electoral vote of 185 to 184. Of course, nobody was happy about this, but behind the scenes, a deal was struck. The Democrats agreed to accept Hayes as the winner, even though it was clear, and is clear, that he didn't win. In exchange, Hayes made a promise. He would only serve one term, and he would end post-Civil War Reconstruction programs in the South. This unofficial, undemocratic, and immoral compromise at least solved the presidency question. So, it was good? 1888. When Grover Cleveland won the popular vote, but lost the electoral vote to Benjamin Harrison. Even though Cleveland won the popular vote by 90,000 votes, Harrison just eked out a victory in the states of New York and Indiana by less than 1% of the popular vote to give him just enough electoral votes to win. 2000. When a similar situation played out between George W. Bush and Al Gore. Al Gore clearly won the nationwide popular vote. But Florida's decisive electoral votes that would push one candidate over the majority were held up due to recounts, as the numbers were so close. Bush was just a few hundred ahead at times. In the end, the recount was ended by the U.S. Supreme Court, and Bush was declared the winner. Finally, 2016. Now, this time, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by nearly 3 million more votes nationwide. However, because of the particular states that Donald Trump won, especially Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, Trump ended up with more electoral votes than Hillary Clinton, and he became the president. I know. When you look at all these facts and numbers, it is kind of hard to accept that the electoral system is the best system out there. Is it the best system for us? I heard some of you say, why not just use the popular vote? And that's a good question. There have been a lot of legislative and grassroots campaigns over the years to change it, but nothing much has happened, so it clearly isn't a top priority for the people in power. I wonder why. There's actually a pretty clear reason why the founders of the United States did not want a popular vote, but that's a subject for a whole nother video. But hey, let's take a look at this. 1824, 1876, 1888, 2000, and 2016. That is 5 elections that have been, shall we say, failures in a democratic sense. Now, through 2020, there have been 59 elections total. So that means that 55 out of 59 have been, shall we say, successful. Well, that's 91%. That's like a B plus. Hmm. It's actually kind of depressing when you think about it. So, okay, enough of that for now. Now let's get back to our actual lesson. Let's take out our books and
Please excuse the interruption. All students should proceed to the gymnasium for today's special presentation from the science department on why water is wet.
if you have any thoughts about the electoral system, please share them politely in the comments. Please check out some of our other videos too. Subscribe, and I hope to see you next class.